All right. I'm going to split 8.3 into 2 videos because we're going to do transformations in the next one, so I'm going to split it up. I know you haven't had transformations yet. So, vertex form. Vertex form is about the same exact thing, except for there's just some different letters. So, A times quantity x minus h squared plus k. K is just your constant at the end, which is just exactly what C was. H is going to be your B, and then A is your A. So it's just a little bit different. HK is going to be your vertex, as long as it's in this form. And then here it's going to be negative A. I like to say the opposite of whatever H is. Because your axis of symmetry, the same thing as B was. Okay, so we're going to find the vertex and the axis of symmetry in this one. Axis of symmetry. This is going to be your B or your H. It's the opposite of this number. Okay, so if it's in this form, it's going to be the opposite of that number right there. So x equals not positive 4, but negative 4. In your vertex, you're going to plug it in just like we did before. Y equals negative 4 plus 4 squared minus 2. Alright, so if you have your calculator, this is a great time to use that. Alright, so you're going to enter it just like this in your calculator. So negative 4. Oops. Make sure whenever you enter something in, substitute it and you put it in parentheses of its own. Plus 4 squared minus 2. And you get minus 2 or negative 2. Now, if you don't have a calculator, you're just going to use order of operations. Okay, so let me show you one with that. So negative 4 plus 4 is going to be 0 squared minus 2. 0 squared is just 0 minus 2. 0 minus 2 is going to be your negative 2. And that's exactly what we got with the calculator. So now it's going to be a coordinate. So x, y. So x is negative 4. And y is negative 2. And that's your vertex. Alright, number 2. Looks a little bit different because it has a negative outside of here. Let's talk about that when we do our problem. Axis of symmetry, again, it's the same type of form as our vertex form. So I'm going to take the h, which is here, and make it the opposite. So x equals positive 3. Vertex. Oops. Plug it in. So y equals negative on the outside, parentheses 3, close it, so it gets its own parentheses, minus 3, close it again, because that's what's there, squared. Alright, so put that exactly like that in your calculator. Negative 3. Which is 0. Okay. Again, if you don't have your calculator, it's going to be a negative, and 3 minus 3 is going to be 0 squared. So it's really going to be negative 0 squared, and negative 0 squared is going to be just 0. So it's going to be 3, 0. Alright, moving on to 3 and 4. Axis of symmetry looks the same exact way, so it's the opposite of whatever your h is, so x equals positive 5. Plug it in. I'm just going to use the calculator this time. Y equals, 5 minus 5 squared minus 4. So negative 4. And go ahead and put a coordinate. So 5, negative 4. Perfect. Alright, number 4 does not look the same thing. So it does not look the same exact way as vertex form. You're going to use your standard form. This is what it's in, standard form. standard form says you have to use negative b over 2a. Alright, so negative b, the opposite of whatever b is. Here, you don't have a b. Remember, b is attached to your one standalone x. We don't have that. So it's just going to be negative 0 over 2 times whatever your a is, and here it's negative 2. So it's going to be 0 divided by negative 4, which is always 0. When you have 0 on the top, it's always 0. Put 0 in, so x equals 0. Y equals, plug it in, negative 2. 0 squared plus 3. Put it into your calculator. Negative 2, parentheses 0, parentheses squared, plus 3, which is 3. Coordinate 0, 3. Alright, moving down to your graphing. Okay, so it says we have to graph each equation. This up a little bit. Okay, graph each equation, then use a table, find the axis of symmetry, vertex, domain, and range. So we're going to talk a little bit more about domain and range this time. All right, same exact thing. My axis of symmetry, the opposite of whatever your h is. So here it's going to be negative 2. Plug it in for my vertex. Calculator. Which is 7. Negative 2. And 7. Alright, domain and range. This is where we're going to make our table of values. So x, y. So from yesterday's graphing, we know that the negative 2, 7 is going to go right in the middle. Negative 2, 7. Then we're going to make them shorter, or not shorter, less, negative 3, negative 4, and greater, negative 1 and 0. These are what you're going to plug into your computer or your calculator now. So it's going to be negative, parenthesis, parenthesis, negative 4, close it up. Plus 2, close it up, squared, plus 7. So you're going to get 3. If you don't want to re-enter it again, you're just going to hit second, enter, backspace, and instead of negative 4, you're going to put negative 3, enter, to get 6. Just to make sure, I want to get negative 1, second, enter, backspace, instead of negative 3, I want negative 1, enter, which is 6, second, enter, backspace, get rid of that negative by pushing the delete, hit over at 0, enter, and you get 3. Now, these should be, if they're in order, this should be your vertex, your maximum or minimum, whatever it is. These two numbers should be the same. And these two numbers should be the same. Okay, and that's going to be a quadratic similarity right there. All right, domain. So if I were to graph these, it's going to look like this. This is what you should be doing, is graphing these. You're going to graph this coordinate, negative 4, 3, negative 3, 6, negative 2, 7, negative 1, 6, and 0, 3. You're going to graph that on the coordinate plane that they give you. Okay, which they did it right here. Okay, so they graphed this. So this one has a maximum, and you can tell because it's going to, our equation has a negative in front of it, so it's a negative a. So that means that it's going to open downwards. All right, so let's just talk about the domain. Your domain, anytime you have a quadratic, it's always going to either open upwards or open downwards, but no matter what, it's going to go down and out or up and out. So down and out, up and out, depending on whatever it is. So that means that because it's going to keep going and going and going forever, it's going to go out, 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 further and further and further. It means it's going to be all real numbers. Remember, because this is my x. So because it's going out, 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 and out, out, out that way, it's going to go infinitely in both directions. Okay, my range is a little bit different. Notice my range has a maximum. It's going to stop here. Right there. Let me get my other pen. Okay, and we're talking about our y this time. So our y is going to stop here at this coordinate right there. Okay, I'm only interested in my y because that's what my range is. So my y is actually going to go all the way up, and my y is actually 7. And if you notice, you have a 7 over here in my vertex, which is what we found out here. That does make a difference, so you don't have to have the graph in order to figure out my range. So it's 7 right there. And notice that my graph is going infinitely down, okay? So that means that my range is going to be y, and because it's going down infinitely, it's going to be less than or equal to, because it's a closed dot, 7, okay? Next one. Your axis of symmetry, I'm just going to give you that right there. Axis of symmetry, opposite of -1, which is 1. Plug it in. Let's see. Y equals 3x minus 1. Oops. I want 1 minus 1. And squared. Enter this in your calculator. 3. Which is 0. So your vertex, 1, 0. Make a table. One 0 goes right in the middle. Less than that. 0, -1. More than that. 2, 3. Plug these in. Second, enter. If you need to insert something, negative, or the second, and then delete, insert, -1. Enter. Seems very wide to me. Let me see. Yep, okay. So 12. Second. Delete the negative. Insert the 0. 3. Now remember, the first one and last one should be the same. And these two should be the same. But we can just make sure. Second, enter. 2. Which is 3. Second, enter. 3, which is 12. Okay, so that worked out good. Graph it, and it's going to look like this over here. Okay. So my graph, it's going to look here, and now we have a minimum. Okay, minimum, it's going to go upwards. So my graph is growing out as the minimum. So my minimum's down here. My domain, again, is going up and out, all real numbers. My range is stopping here, and it's growing upward, okay? So remember, my range, my number has to do with my y value that I found over here when I did my vertex. So my range is going to be y is greater than or equal to 0. Okay. All right, I'm going to quit here for now, and then I'm going to continue with my next video, and we're going to do transformations. So I would definitely have your notes packet here so we can follow along. See you in a few.